So yeah, dear colleagues, hi everyone. Once again, my name is Boris Rebinchuk. I'm event director at the MCM Ukraine here today. We're happy to have a very interesting webinar together with our partners, Business Ombudsman Council. We have the knowledge webinar, BOC for Policy and Recovery, Navigating Risks and Engaging the Private Sector. Thank you for your activeness. Thank you for your support and for co-organizing this event. I'm happy to introduce our great speakers. We have a great pool of speakers today. Tatiana Korotka, Deputy Business Ombudsman in Ukraine. We have Metro Polyansky, Senior Recovery Lead. We have Olena Chorna, Senior Legal Manager. Roman Homenets, Infrastructure Recovery Specialist. And Irina Tkachenko, Economic Analytic. We're happy to see you everyone today. A couple of organizational questions. First of all, if you would like to leave a comment or a question, please feel free to use the chat section. Our speakers will be happy to answer your questions and comment on your comments by the end of the presentation. We have the recording on. We have no IR alarms, hopefully, during the event, but feel free to go to the underground shelter if it will be during the webinar. So yeah, hopefully we will have, and I'm sure that we will have a fruitful and very interesting event today. So without further ado, Tatiana, the floor is yours, and thank you once again for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Boris, for this kind introduction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Business Ombudsman Council, I am glad to have you all here today. And I don't have any doubt that you know in general what the Business Ombudsman Council is, but I suppose I should begin by highlighting our new direction and the introduction with our new team. Because of the situation related to damage and issues that happened because of the war situation, and because we began receiving complaints from businesses and companies that involved in the reconstruction process, and as well as many questions from different stakeholders related to the long-term and short-term early recovery, Business Ombudsman Council decided to establish a new direction that we called policy and recovery. And here is our team that would like to present our new findings, very fresh findings, and share with you some thoughts and ideas regarding how we could polish the situation and how we could prepare our companies and businesses as well as the state stakeholders for the future recovery process. As I mentioned, we have started receiving complaints from businesses, and mostly they are connected to the involvement into the critical infrastructure repairing and restoration. Diving deeper into this situation, we realized that there are a huge amount of questions that were not covered previously, and business that involved in the critical infrastructure reconstruction faces challenges beginning with the financial issues and finishing with the really not clear and very new legal situations. So, taking into account all these factors, Business Ombudsman Council provided a special research that were recently presented, and you can find it on our website, and make some conclusions. Yeah, there is no secret that the scale of challenges huge. Every day these numbers could be changed every day, because all of us unfortunately struggle with these missiles attacks, shaheds, and losses and damages that caused by these attacks. But For the future, like a quicker recovery, we also understand that we should somehow encourage private sector to participate in the process of the reconstruction, beginning with the procurement, then finishing with the long-term investment. So what strikes me personally with our findings, please next slide, Irina, that it's these challenges covers not only like destroyed infrastructure or investment and financial constraints, but mostly lack of legal solutions for the companies that already involved voluntary or by pressure of state stakeholders in the critical infrastructure recovery. So let's begin our workshop with the covering. Next slide, please. And next, Irina. And next, please. Yes, so let's begin with the key administrative, financial, and contractual challenges that we researched for businesses in reconstruction. And this topic will present by Olena Chorna. She is our senior legal manager for our team. Olena, floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I will focus on main administrative, contractual, and financial challenges of the business who are involved in recovery projects. And I will also share with you some practical solutions based on our insights. Yes, there are many challenges, but I would like to start with a positive development. Previously, the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine had a resolution which regulated urgent infrastructure restoration, but it was only valid till the end of the previous year. And actually, in January, there was a legal gap. After recommendations from the Business-Ombudsman Council and market participants, the Cabinet of Ministers adopted a new resolution. And it's a great step toward. But of course, there are some challenges, administrative, I mean. So first one, I would like to mention that it is a lack of a unified communication field. That at this moment, there is no centralized platform for different stakeholders. Sometimes it is not clear who is responsible for what in critical situations. And of course, it makes this process very difficult and to make any planning. Another problem that I would like to mention that sometimes there are no enough funds at the local level, and of course it is also makes recovery projects inefficient. So what we can propose here, it is public communication and access to restoration expenditure data. By this measure, we will solve several tasks. So it is to ensure transparency for different stakeholders. We will also build trust with international partners, and of course, we will improve expense planning accuracy. The next slide, Irina. So let's talk about financial challenges. As you may understand, of course, recovery projects require significant investment. And unfortunately, there are some financial obstacles for the business. I would say that one of the biggest problem is delays in funding. Unfortunately, it happens that business doesn't receive payment for completed work or provided services. Of course, this puts companies at risk because sometimes they rely on loans, they use their working capital, and of course, business needs predictability. The other problem is that funds are often allocated only in the last months of the budget year. The last one, sometimes government decisions on how to use international donor funds are postponed. As you may understand, recovery projects are postponed as well, unfortunately. So what can we do here? Our recommendations. Of course, to ensure payment, to ensure timely payment, because business needs predictability. Prioritization of budget expenditures, so we need to focus on the most urgent needs. We should also think about implementation of insurance and guarantee mechanisms for business. And of course, we should improve procedures which relate to approval and allocation for donor funds. So the next slide, please. And now let's talk about contracting issues. I would like to begin with the following. As you know, officially, participation in a recovery project is absolutely voluntary. However, in practice, what we see is that sometimes, it is often when business is pressured to participate in different projects. And unfortunately, business is not given any guarantees, advance payments. One more time, they should use loans, they should use their working capital, and of course, it can be difficult for the business. The other problem is that there are some cases of nationalization or changes in client leadership, and it leads to contract terms to be revised. The other problems that I would like to mention, there are sometimes delays or refusals in signing completion certificates. As you know, completion certificate, it's a document where your client confirms that everything is okay, he is ready to pay, he doesn't have any observations to your work. So here we have sometimes unlawful refusals to sign these documents. One more practical problem, unfortunately, law enforcement agencies very often initiate investigations against the business, even if the business acted according to terms of the contract, because only of the reason that the budget funds were used. The next slide, please. So now I would like to tell you about a real example, because the Business-Ombudsman Council was reached by the construction company who participated in recovery project, and it faced some difficulties. So what was the problem? Our complainant, he signed documents and began the project. However, during this project, the critical infrastructure facility was nationalized. Our complainant had problems, unfortunately, with payments and with documents execution. So in this case, the company faced difficulties. It gained some financial losses because it received only part of the payment and later than it expected, unfortunately. And the documents were not executed properly. What is the result of this story? It was the decision of the company not to participate in public recovery projects. What is the lesson here? Of course, we need clear communication, we need legal safeguards, we need predictability for business, because recovery is not possible without business. The next slide. So what we can propose here? Of course, I believe that number one priority should be strengthening payment discipline to ensure timely settlements with contractors. This is very important. As I mentioned, business needs predictability and stability. So the other one, it is upholding contractual obligations by the state. So it means that the state must honor its commitments, even in case there are some changes in the leadership of the company, or, for example, nationalization, as I mentioned in our example. What we also need, it is also developing a transparent mechanism for approving completion certificates, because as I've mentioned, sometimes the business doesn't receive the signed documents. And of course, I believe we need a digital system for automatic approval in order to avoid such unlawful refusals. It is also important to eliminate discriminatory conditions in tenders, to ensure fair competition, and to allow new participants to enter the market. And the last one, in order to reduce the risk of unjustified criminal prosecution, we need to establish clear evaluation criteria. What can be checked, what cannot be checked, and we believe that it will prevent undue pressure from law enforcement agencies. So I believe, and our team believes, that these measures can make recovery more efficient and transparent. Thank you very much for your attention.
What captured our attention, it's current regulations. And we develop a bunch of recommendations and findings, for sure, related to improving regulations to enhance private sector involvement in recovery. And this topic will cover Roman Homonets, the infrastructure recovery specialist from the Business-Ombudsman Council's team. Please, Roman, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear colleague. I want to tell you about improving regulation to enhance private sector involvement in recovery. It's second part of our presentation. We have regulatory environments. It's several problem, complex procedure for obtaining servitude and superficies right for construction, uncertainty in evaluation works and material costs, leading to difference in pricing, barrier to attracting international companies, limiting competitions and expertise in reconstruction project, lack of unified legal frameworks to recovery, causing conflict in regulatory approaches. And we have some recommendations. It's introducing a simplified procedure for obtaining servitude and supervision rights. It's reduce review and approval timeframes to accelerate reconstruction. Establishing transparent mechanism for evaluation works and material costs. It's developing a unified national price database for construction materials and services, considering market dynamics and fluctuations, adopting legislation to attract international companies, amending regulation to simplify procedures for foreign companies' participation in critical infrastructure recovery, harmonizing legal approaches across all regions, eliminating regional difference to improve coordination and ensure consistency in regulatory practices. Thank you for your attention. Next.
You probably know that Business-Ombudsman Council works not only with the practical cases that we have quite a lot, but also sometimes we contribute into the policy development, and procurement policy will be probably one of the most highlighted for the upcoming recovery process. Even today, our colleagues shared the news and articles regarding the EU legislation approximations and the related to procurement policy. So we also can't avoid this topic into our research. And I'd like to invite Dmytro Polyansky, our senior recovery lead, that will focus on our findings and suggestions on these issues. Dmytro, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Tatiana. Good afternoon, dear participants. As Tatiana just mentioned, procurement plays a crucial role in the restoration of critical infrastructure in Ukraine, especially during full-scale war. In the end of 2022, procurement process has significant amendments in order to face the challenges caused by the full-scale invasion. In our presentation, we will highlight key challenges and propose solutions to improve procurement practice in order to ensure fair competition, transparency, and contractual protection. Well, one of the main issues in public procurement we have to mention is the risk of lack of competition and transparency. For example, Irina, the next slide, please. In the first half of 2024, no, not this one. Sorry, yes. 85% of tenders conducted through the electronic procurement system had only one participant. And outside the electronic system, 97% of tenders were also held with a single bidder. In September 2024, for example, more than 13,000 purchases, it's almost 77% of total purchases per month for the amount of 89 billion hryvnias were made with one participant. This just to illustrate the situation with and the issues with lack of competition and transparency that we have. The other issues is discriminatory conditions for contractors. Many contractors face unfair barriers that limit competitions. Especially some tenders include unnecessary certification requirements or specific technical data that are made for favoring certain companies while excluding other participants. This practice leads to inflated costs and inefficiencies in infrastructure restoration. Weak competition in procurement results in fewer bids, reducing the ability to obtain the best value for money offers. Another problem is the excessive use of direct contracts, reduce competition as well, and raises questions on the transparency and procurement process itself. One of the examples that demonstrates this problem is procurement made by Ukhrhydroenergo, where the company awarded a contract worth more than 4 billion hryvnias without open tender, and the procurement data is hidden. In the period of 2022-2024, Ukhrhydroenergo awarded contracts in total for 19 billion without competition. Close procurement without competition limits market access and transparency. Well, this case was also investigated by Groshi and had public and was in public. And the other problem is legal risk for businesses participating in the procurement process, which leads to potential disputes, investigation, criminal cases, and further reputational risk, and as a result, financial losses for the participant. Which leads to decrease of willingness to participate in public procurement by private business and work in the B2G sector. We at the Business-Ombudsman Council have developed the following recommendations, which aim to improving situation with the public procurements in order to protect business interests. There are the following main recommendation is passing from direct contracts to competitive tenders. It will create a more open and fair procurement process. Defining clear and standardized participation condition. It will eliminate discriminatory barriers and ensure fair opportunities for all companies. Increasing transparency in procurement data will allow independent verification of costs and prevent corruption. Recognizing international certification, it will make it easier for foreign contractors to participate in Ukrainian tenders, as well as harmonizing procurement procedures with global standards and opening Ukrainian market for the broad range of international players. It will attract more international investors and contractors. And establishing a registry of trusted contractors who meet anti-corruption and performance standards. It will improve accountability, and the last recommendation is already starting to be realized in 2025. So and we are very glad about that. That will actually will help to improve the procurement practice in Ukraine. The other major challenges that Ukrainian business is facing is in reconstruction are related to the availability of necessary materials. Many production facilities have been destroyed due to hostilities, reducing the domestic supply of building materials. Infrastructure destruction, including damages ports and closed airports, negatively affects logistics, delaying supplies, and increasing costs. Rising energy prices also significantly impact the cost of building materials, putting additional pressure on project budgets. All of the above mentioned have a direct impact on the cost of materials and price of work. Well, below is one of the live examples that we had from a leading infrastructure companies, where the procurement of the materials under existing market shortage led to supply constraints. And the project's costs were increased due to higher prices caused by the market conditions and limited supply. All this led to delayed payments, and as a chain result, affected financial planning. And as a result, additional inspection from the state authorities. So this example demonstrates how the availability of the necessary materials can affect the financial situation of contractors and of participants. The Business-Ombudsman Council developed the possible ways for solution of the situation and what can be done. First, cost evaluation should be based not only on individual expenses, but also consider overall market conditions and project timelines. A system for aggregating and monitoring market prices shall be implemented, considering regional specifics and market fluctuation. It will ensure cost assessment to reflect real economic condition. Implementing compensation mechanism will help mitigate the impact of energy price fluctuation on construction costs. And encouraging investment in rebuilding destroyed material production plants through state or international funding will secure long-term materials availability. In conclusion, reforming system of public procurement is essential for the effective restoration of Ukraine. Transparent, competitive, and standardized procurement practice will enhance trust, efficiency, and cost effectiveness. Aligning with international standards and encouraging fair competition will attract more qualified contractors and investors. And strengthening risk management and financial planning will create a stable and reliable procurement system. Thank you for your attention. I shall pass word to Tatiana.
Thank you, Dmytro, and thank you that for the interest of time you like squeeze all information. However, we will be ready to discuss it in more details with the audience. And the last but not least part, it's questions regarding our ideas and recommendations for the long-term steps to the sustainable recovery. I understand that these days all attentions focus on the first steps in negotiations between Ukraine and the United States of America and our international partners. And today we all expect that maybe some telephone conversation will happen between President Trump and the other person. But despite all these obstacles, we should be ready and prepare our environment, business environment and regulatory environment for the huge recovery, because Ukraine will be probably the biggest construction site in the world, even in the world. So we prepared some ideas based on the preliminary findings. Our team was established just 4 months ago, so 5 months ago already. So it's like first ideas. So Irina Tkachenko, our economic analytic, will provide you with more details about this description of these ideas. Please, Irina.
Dear participants and dear colleagues, in the final part of our presentation, we will focus on immediate and long-term steps needed to accelerate and sustain recovery. So to accelerate recovery in short terms, we can focus on 7 key blocks. You can see them now on your screen. So the first, it's transparent rules for business. Businesses need a predictable environment to operate effectively. So what we recommend? First of all, establishing clear legal guarantees to protect contractors from sudden contract cancellations due to nationalization or leadership changes. My colleague Olena had already mentioned about these examples. And of course, implementing stable and predictable financial mechanisms to prevent disruptions. The second block is regulating of legal framework. Legal uncertainties create risks that can slow down recovery processes. To address this, we recommend first, it's introducing fast-track procedures for permits, procurements, and land use, and of course, standardizing a legal framework for critical infrastructure recovery. The third block is simplifying land procedures. As we know, many projects are delayed due to land allocation challenges. To accelerate land access, we propose removing obstacles to obtaining servitudes and superficies right to allow faster land allocation, and ensuring legal clarity in land acquisition processes for public private partnerships. Then we move to a fourth block, it's modern pricing. Unstable pricing creates disputes and financial risks. And we suggest, first of all, developing a national database for construction material prices to prevent procurement disputes and ensuring contractual price flexibility. The fifth block is improving public procurement approaches. Transparent procurement processes, they are key to ensuring fairness. And we recommend, first, it's reducing reliance on direct contracts and introducing competitive tenders for infrastructure projects, and establishing a transparent digital platform for tracking procurement decisions and contract execution. The sixth block is engaging international contractors. International expertise and investment, they are essential for recovery. We propose removing legal and procedural obstacles for foreign companies participating in public tenders and recognizing international certifications in Ukrainian tenders. And the last block of immediate steps is coordinating CI restoration. Our recommendations include, first, it's establishing a national coordination center to streamline collaboration between businesses, government, and donors, and improving data sharing on infrastructure needs and funding allocations to enhance efficiency. On the next slide, you can see Council's long-term recommendations. While immediate recommendations they are necessary, recovery also requires a long-term vision and structural improvements. So we have 5 key recommendation steps. First, it's developing CI growth plans. We recommend implementing long-term strategic planning to prevent fragmented reconstruction. And aligning reconstruction priorities with national and regional development strategies to ensure sustainability. The second block is modernizing the country's energy model. We suggest, first of all, it's accelerating the integration of decentralized energy sources, such as solar, wind, cogeneration, implementing grid connection reforms, and modernizing district heating networks to improve efficiency and resilience against future threats. The third one is restoration funding. Long-term recovery requires stable financing, and our recommendations include developing a long-term financing framework, strengthening donor coordination to optimize the allocation of international aid, and establishing risk sharing mechanisms such as guarantees, insurance. The fourth block is involving business in restoration. As Tatiana Korotka has already mentioned, private sector engagement is crucial for a sustainable recovery. So what we propose: expanding and strengthening public-private partnerships, for example, by introducing tax and investment incentives to encourage business to participate in reconstruction efforts. And the last block is transparency and monitoring use of funds. What we suggest: implementing open data systems for tracking donors and budgetary expenses, and establishing independent oversight mechanisms to prevent corruption, misallocation of funds, and inefficiencies. So the implementation of all these recommendations will require close cooperation between businesses, government institutions, and international partners. And my final brief thoughts is that Ukraine's recovery is not only about rebuilding what was lost. It's also about creating a system that is stronger, more resilient, and prepared for future. And by implementing these immediate recommendations and by committing to long-term strategies, we can ensure that critical infrastructure reconstruction is efficient and transparent. And dear participants, on the last slide, you can see our QR code. And by scanning it, you can access our reports on critical infrastructure, where you can find a detailed overview of key challenges, of real-world examples, and of Council's recommendations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, many thanks, Irina, for the great conclusion. And before we begin with your questions, I do hope that you have it, because we really would be interested in our communications with the distinguished audience. I would like to mention that we are ready to review and help your businesses in case you have any challenges related to the restoration and recovery in the very wide meaning. And despite my statement that unfortunately there is lack of legal solutions in this area, we are ready to begin in helping with this, because we need to polish the environment, and we have a carte blanche as a business ombudsman council with the helping businesses thinking outside of box and trying to find a solution that afterwards will be multiplied for the wider approach. Thank you, and looking forward having your questions. It's interesting. I understand, Boris, that our team presented so many details that
Yeah. You
our
provided such a
participants
detailed
missed.
information so that anyone, so our colleagues and our guests don't have any questions, as I see. But we will provide 1 minute for our colleagues if they have any questions. If you do have them, please use the chat section. In any case, thank you, dear colleagues, for the presentation. Thank you for the useful information provided, and thank you for your support, and thank you for your willingness to cooperate on this matter. So yeah, dear colleagues, if you have any questions, please feel free to use chat. If no, you can always reach out to our colleagues directly, or you can reach out to us, and we will help you with the contacts of our colleagues from Business Ombudsman Council. So as I see there, we don't have any questions, and the detailed information that's provided. So thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, dear colleagues, for your time, for your willingness to do this, and looking forward to seeing you soon and cooperate in the future.
Yeah, thank you, and have a great and calm day, dear colleagues and guests.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
See you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.